Hey, welcome back to the Data Drama Show. It's your boy, Ben Humble, here today on a Monday. Beautiful day outside. Canada's getting nice and warm, actually. Looks like it was almost, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. I'd like to give it to you in Celsius, but I live on a border town, so we don't really know the difference. I'm hoping you do, and if you do, let me know what it is today in Celsius. That'd help me out in the comments. Hans, pull up the comments here real quick. Let's just see who was out there today. Folks, appreciate you checking in with us. Appreciate you following us on the show every day. We're getting some awesome viewership here on the show on a regular basis, so I'm hoping you're getting a lot of value. And let me know in the comments as Hans brings the comments up here, because it's still not up on the screen. As Hans brings them up, let me know, what are the things you like about the show? I'd like to know and get into a little bit today. And then what are the things that you'd like us to do different? And no, I will not be doing the show naked. So if that's your advice, that's not happening. What's going on, Coolio? What's going on? Matt, James, Steven, Michael. What's going on? It looks like cousin Vinny's in the house, but cousin Vinny's already in the house. So hey, what's going on? Sarah's in the house. Kelly's in the house. Dre's in the house. Cool. And we got some folks hanging out. So today's show is going to be cool. We're going to be talking about some stuff here. Focusing on what's going on in the news, focusing on what's going on around us, and as this whole COVID thing develops, hey, what's up, Sean? Good to see you. As this thing is developing, what are we doing? Is this becoming the new norm? Is this whole 6 foot difference thing becoming the new norm? Or, are some people testing the boundaries by going 5.5 feet? I don't know. I saw a guy that was 4 feet away from another guy. I wanted to call the police the other day. I don't know what to do. I don't know if there's a new process for this stuff here. So, get a little confused, but maybe we can get some clarity here today. Here's all the comments coming in. Boom. Sin's in the house. What's going on, Sin? What's going on? Hungarian Experiments in the house. Boom. So, hey, guys, by the way, if you're brand new to the show, just put this book together, and want to give you guys a free copy of my latest book, Real Estate Secrets Exposed. You can head over to humble.ceo to go ahead and connect with us there. Grab your free copy and, focus on real estate investing. Today, my guest is the one and only. I got to get a new name for this guy literally every week because, he's just such a cool dude. We call him the bearded patriot before. We've called him the, let's go with the Amish bearded. Let's just go with that. Welcome, Matt McKeever, to the show, everybody. Sorry, man. I'm on the spot here.
No worries. Hey, Ben. How's it going?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. So for folks that maybe don't know who Matt is, Matt's largest Canadian real estate YouTuber and got over 50,000 subscribers right now. Matt's dropping daily content all the time, and he's also my partner in Cashflow Tribe, which is the now fastest growing real estate community, online community in all of Canada, which I know sounds huge because Canada's massive. But we are now the fastest growing. So if you're looking to get into real estate, connect with us on that piece. Matt, let's talk about some of the stuff in the current news. Before we do that, dude, can I hit you with the data drama real quick?
Let's do it.
Let's go, Hans. Hit us with the music real quick. Data drama. Are you switching up the music today? Huh, Hans is getting creative. I like it. Okay, Tesla shares have risen over 8% today due to back-to-work orders. 8%. Data or drama? What do you think, my friend?
Sounds plausible, so I'll guess data.
That is data. Shares of electric vehicle maker jumped more than 8% after the company asked dozens of employees to return to work on Wednesday in order to resume production at the Fremont, California car plant, according to the international correspondent shared with CNBC. So, hey, awesome. So, listen, there's a really interesting polarity that happens, right? Stuff is going up, stuff is going down. It's interesting. So let's jump right into the show here today. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on in the news. And Matt, I'd like to get your take on what's going on here, because it seems like we've got this kind of polarity. Some companies are going up, some companies are going down at the same time. And we kind of talked about this last week a little bit, but some of the industrial oil-driven companies are taking a nosedive. Some of the technology type of companies are going up. So let me bring up some stuff in the news, and then let's talk on this, folks. By the way, if you have a question for my guest here today or myself, drop it in the comments. We'll be taking some questions here, folks, and let's keep this dialogue rolling, okay? We got some people asking real estate questions in the comments. Keep asking them. We might hit some of those here in a little while. So airlines are looking to borrow $31 billion to weather the pandemic blow to travel, which seems to be one of the hardest hit segments in the market. Guys, there's some serious issues going on at the airlines if we don't get these things back up and running and back to capacity. So Boeing says it will need to borrow more money for the coronavirus fallout. Matt, what's your take on this whole thing, man? And I will keep throwing some of these news articles on the screen here as you talk about the airlines, because I know you were a CPA and you've got good insider track on financials and stuff. Let's talk about it. Yeah. What do you think? What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I think we will see a big impact to the airline companies. Obviously, we're seeing one now, but I suspect that even after the fact, once we slowly start to return to normal, this quarantine and self-isolating is lasting long enough now that I think we will see new habits and behaviors form for the average person. So, depends on which guru or person you listen to, but usually they'll say between 3 to 8 weeks in order to form a new habit. Well, that's definitely how long at a minimum we're going to be kind of under this self-isolating quarantine situation. So it's definitely long enough for a lot of businesses and people to develop new practices. I think a lot of people that used to jump on an airplane for a meeting now probably realize the value in Zoom or Skype or other online platforms like that. So I think we are going to see a big impact to the airlines. Now, whether it's the government's job to bail them all out, the airline industry historically has always struggled to begin with, right? It's definitely been a feast or famine industry where there's years where everyone's winning and then there's years where like it's a bloodbath.
Well, you bring up a good point. So let me just interject with something here real quick. So you're bringing up a good point. You're saying that every 3 to 6 weeks you're going to develop a new habit. So I didn't even think about it that way, but you've got habits that are being formed whether you want it or not. So maybe when we come out of this thing, your habit now is maybe being developed into like you don't shake hands and you stay 6 feet apart from people and you don't really have a lot of human interaction. And maybe you're developing, in addition to habits, also maybe some limiting beliefs or some fears, which is another thing that happens, which is like, well, I'm not going to go to a rock concert. What if another virus breaks out? I'm not going to go to this, Disneyland, because what if my kids get the virus sitting on the ride? So will it make us more paranoid as a society?
I think there's definitely the risk for that, right? I'm no psychologist, but certainly, again, even think about like what the younger generation's going to see from their parents, right? We're very much sponges when we grow up, and I think a lot of people are going to have impressions made upon them, like a lot of young people right now, just towards a lot of the behaviors and previous social norms that we used to have that may not continue or may get weakened in the future.
So let me ask you this. I had my good show Rocky Garza on the show last week, and he talked about, this idea that from 0 to 6, we basically are fed the beliefs, right, from our parents and community and surroundings. And then from 6 to 12, we actually make a decision to adopt those belief systems. So if you've got children between 6 and 12 and you're living in this kind of fear-driven state, for you it might be kind of a temporary thing, but you might actually be asking them or essentially indulging them into this whole mindset of fear and afraid of touching their neighbors. And they might develop kind of long-term scarcity or habits around what's going on today because they're so impressionable at that age group. I see that as a very realistic possibility for folks. So I think we need to be careful here in a way of like, what kind of long-term residual psychological effects are we going to derive as a result of this kind of physical, pandemic event? So, what's your take on that? Do you agree with that logic?
Yeah, I think I do. And it's really interesting, right? Because in the short term, some of the coping mechanisms we may be implementing are important in the short term, but, having that become a short-term habit, but not a long-term habit, I think will be difficult for some people. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all sorts itself out, or if it does. And I think the one thing we all need to constantly remind ourselves is that we have this tendency to think that there was a moment in time when things were normal, but there never really was like a snapshot of this is the picture perfect version of how society or the world's supposed to be, and we need to return to that. That's really just like a coping mechanism for our brains to anchor to. So I think it is really important that we understand that whatever the future looks like, it's going to look different than the past, but at the same time, that's the way the future's always been. Right.
And, people are scared, and I get it. Somebody that I know very well, close to me, was tested positive for COVID-19. Okay. And, they spent a week, in their place, and, they had a cold or whatever else, or whatever the symptoms are. And, now they're fine. And the people they lived with were also under quarantine for 14 days. And the people they lived with had 0 symptoms, absolutely 0. And they're older, right? So, coming on the back end of this thing, I'm looking at it like, hey, folks, I've kind of always just kept the hope, because I don't really believe as much as the media as what it portrays, right? But now that I have people that are, that I know very well, that have gone through the COVID thing, tested positive, and now come out the back end, now again, I'm even more hopeful. Like, okay, I get it. Some people get sick, and some people have, ailments, and some people, die from this. But is it really as big as it seems? Or are we now starting to question surrounding COVID, right? Because I remember it when we first started, it was this big fear. And then it moved into this kind of thing of like, oh, it's just a big scam. And I heard that from a lot of people. It's a big scam. The government's trying to take advantage of you. They're trying to control you. They're trying to whatever. And I'm not really one of those theorists who put all these theories out there. It's just not my personality type to do that. But on some level, I got to ask myself, how much of this is being manipulated? And who's the person winning, or who are the people winning behind this, right? Is it the pharmaceutical companies? Is it other, companies that are rallying, because I know one thing, which is like, it's never going to be 100% truth. So at this point, I feel that a lot of this stuff that's happening is going to have consequences, but for a lot of people, they don't necessarily have to live in fear that they're going to die from COVID. I don't think it's that extent. I think it's, if you get sick and you're of, reasonable health, I think you're getting through this, and don't come in contact with people. But, now I have conflicting messages because I got somebody who's older who's been in contact with it and they're perfectly fine. So what do you think about this, man? Do you think we play this off, we play into this narrative, or do you think it really is as big as perhaps the media is making it out?
Yeah, I think it's really tough for anyone to accurately guess that. I think what has been very interesting, though, like you touched upon, is just seeing the overall, culture swings, right? Like between where at any given point in time where society's at, and it feels very much like a pendulum where we're swinging from extreme to extreme, and that naturally whenever we swing one way to an extreme, there's a natural desire to overcompensate in the other direction.
Right.
I think that's why we see such extreme, initial panic and fear mongering and racing to the stores, and then we see the exact opposite backlash of like local militias protesting with guns on their arms and things of that nature. And I think regardless of where reality actually is, I think we're going to continue to see that swing for a while. Just it's going to take a while before it settles down, in my opinion. But barring other major catalysts, I think we will slowly see those the extreme reactions wear thinner and thinner, and eventually kind of more narrow in on a bandwidth that we were used to, say, 6 months ago versus where we are now. So yeah, I like it. It's a really sophisticated, complicated problem that all of us, myself included, we all want to just put one label on it and have that be that. But I think anyone that's being really honest with themselves intellectually knows that it's just far too dynamic of a system with too many inputs and variables to be able to say. So while I think myself, like a lot of other people, still enjoy armchair quarterbacking the situation to a degree, no one had a perfect playbook for this, and no one will. So it really is important that we focus on what we can individually control, which I think has been kind of the theme of your show for the last several weeks. Dude,
I'm going to give you a bomb for that one. That's a bomb. I like it. What can you actually control? And that's really why we put the show together. What can we control? And I think it starts with us, right? Our responsibility is to ourselves, to our family, and to exactly what we're doing. If we're focusing on what everybody else is doing, the truth is it's not helping you, period. It's just not helping your situation. So, what are we doing here as we kind of move through this? And maybe more people will be impacted as a result of more time off work, more time off whatever. But where I live, it's relatively normal. I don't know. Are there people being impacted? Sure there are. But I drove through a very wealthy subdivision yesterday, and I've never seen so many construction, things going on ever as I've seen right now. So I think the wealthy people they're just continuing. And by wealthy, I mean you've got money and you've got resources where this 55% of income thing isn't really affecting you. But people are still building. People are still growing. People still have tons of credit. People still have access to capital. People still have retirement accounts. People still have, things that are going on. So, the reality is it affecting people? Yes. But the question is, who is it really affecting? Who is the financial fallout really affecting? And, my thought process is it's primarily kind of the lower middle class and the lower class. That's who it's affecting. It's the people who really can't afford to take a $500 hit. And from that point of view, then, when you have to leave your job for a week or two, now that $500 hit, that's a really big deal, right? Where the people who have tons of credit saved up and they've been using this to, even fund their lifestyle, I think it's a while before we see the credit dry up. And I think as long as the credit keeps moving and it keeps becoming available and the government keeps giving out loans or they're giving out subsidies or whatever, I don't think people's lifestyles are going to change that dramatically. I don't think you're going from a Mercedes to a bicycle because all of a sudden COVID's here. I think it's going to take a while before that progression happens. And everybody's going to have different triggers. But the truth is that the people who are kind of already on the fence financially, like they're already living on this little, very volatile piece, that's the people who might, flip over and now they can't manage. But the people who weren't, I don't see a big difference in a lot of people in that position. And maybe you could share some light on this. What have you seen out there?
Yeah, I like obviously like there's certain behavior patterns that are changing, but from a consumption standpoint, it does appear as if like overall it's relatively similar to the way it was in the past, right?
Yep.
Maybe people are changing where their entertainment or food budget's being spent,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't seen any statistics showing like massive changes in personal spending or savings rates at least yet. And maybe it's just too early for the data to even really be trickling out.
Mm-hmm.
But anecdotally speaking, I definitely don't notice a difference. I'd say the neighborhood we live in is relatively affluent for London, Ontario as well. And I agree. I see a lot of small tradespeople. Like it seems like there's a lot of people upgrading their landscaping and things of that nature
Yeah.
right now. There seems to be a lot of work going on. Actually, like it really anecdotally speaking, I noticed a huge spike today versus last week. It just seemed like all of a sudden our street is just covered now with different tradespeople.
Yeah, and probably the weather has part to do with that too. Like it's
Yeah.
beautiful outside now. I don't know how it is in London, but it's
Mhm.
beautiful here locally. People are out. People are out. They're walking. They're some people got the face mask. Some people don't have face masks. And everybody's gonna have an opinion that's reckless or no. Keep living your life. And I think to a degree you're very right. I don't know if you can be one or the other. You can't be so polarizing one way or the other, saying, "Oh, this is a complete farce," versus like, "No, it's the end of the world." Right? I think there's got to be some measure there that just, it's common sense. And unfortunately, the problem with common sense is it's not always common. Right? Because people are emotional. And, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So let's keep kind of moving through this here. So as we keep talking about planes, right? So Airbus lays off 3,200 of their staff, right? So, part of the issue here is that, some companies are laying people off. It's a true story. Let's keep moving. So something interesting I did find out, Matt, which you can touch on because this kind of, you're aware of this. So Americans on the cusp of a meat shortage with a lot of the, transportation chains kind of, especially to do with airlines and that means of transportation. What's happening is millions of pounds of meat are essentially disappearing as plants close. Tyson, which is a large producer, right, said that in a blog post on the company's website. In addition to meat shortages, this is a serious food waste issue. A lot of farmers across the nation, they're still growing the food, but the distributors of that food, they can't get it into people's hands, right, because of all these other restrictions. So millions of animals like chicken, pigs, and cattle are, depopulated. So it's sad. It really is. I think it's a sad endeavor because the truth is they're going to waste so much of this food product. Like when you've got livestock and chickens and pigs, and then they've got to go through process and be killed and served as food, and then you throw it away. It just seems like a massive waste. And I know that you're vegan, right? So you don't eat meat. What's your take on this though? Do you think the world is moving more towards a vegan style kind of diet, or perhaps a lower meat consumption kind of diet, because it will it's obviously a lot more manageable from a food spoilage perspective to not eat meat, right? You can substitute meat with so many other products that don't spoil as quickly. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that we are slowly starting to see a change in the social narrative. Probably to me, one of the high watermarks for that was it last year or 2 years ago when
That movie?
Health Canada.
Oh,
sorry.
Health Canada. Keep going. Yep.
Yeah, Health Canada changed the food guidelines, right?
Okay.
And they removed dairy and essentially made meat protein more optional and just protein as a category rather than meat.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting. But I think building upon what you're talking about in regards to the supply chain, there's a lot of really interesting unintended consequences occurring right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've heard about shortages of CO2. So right now, a lot of pop and beer brewers are struggling to get their hands on CO2 because it turns out one of the biggest sources of that is a byproduct of producing jet fuel. And we don't need as much jet fuel right now. I know Bison Transport, I think they're based out of Winnipeg, and they're one of the larger transportation companies here in Canada. They were talking about how the increase of empty return loads with their shipping has dramatically impacted their business and their profitability as well. Because what we don't necessarily understand is once they started reducing non-essential businesses and services, those would often be the return routes, right? So like maybe you're taking a shipment of something to to Windsor, and then you're going to return to Winnipeg with the opposite, right? Like, and all of a sudden that's really where all these transportation companies made their margins. So the moment that they're, I think, above a 10% empty return load, then all of a sudden they're getting into negative territory. So a lot of these transportation companies were on razor wire margins. And while we might naturally look at like, oh, gas prices have dropped dramatically, so they're going to be rich or they're going to be fine. All of a sudden, if they're delivering half as much freight, that has a massive implications because you still have to pay that driver for both there and return.
Correct.
Even if they're returning empty. And so
yeah, so the economics are bigger than just the gas prices. And I think we look at a very binary approach to business. Like, well, if the gas goes down, that means the world is a better place. No, it's not. Because that gas, the price of that gas, you fuel so many other things, pun intended. So I'll let you keep finishing that thought here as you go. Hans is laughing. He made a pun. Oh my God, somebody drop a joke thing. Okay, there you go. All right, keep going.
But yeah, so to me, one of the most fascinating things is just really seeing how interconnected our economy and businesses are.
Yeah.
And that there's certain industries or niches that you might never think to associate, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, jet fuel and beer, that actually, they do play off of each other because of the byproducts of jet fuel.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that is, Matt, is because we don't live in like a one-off business environment. We're so interconnected because entrepreneurs over time will keep asking the same question. Where's the need that I can fill? You know, what resource can I lean on? Or what opportunity is there in the marketplace that I can develop a product, service, or whatever around? So it's exactly what happens. You're in this business and you're watching, you know, the trucks coming and going, and you're asking as a business owner, where else can I add revenue? Where else can I cut expenses? Where else can I add, you know, additional profit centers to my business? So over time, a lot of businesses become this really intricate type of endeavor. And if you cut one area dramatically, it's probably going to have a reaction at a different point. That's just the way it is. Sean's saying it's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, that's right. So it's never going to be as direct, but from the outside in, we look at it thinking, oh my God, like, obviously, this will be a huge benefit for these guys, but until we understand the balance sheet of those companies, the truth is we don't really know. So talking about inverse and adverse relationships, so meat is down. However, the company Beyond Meat, which is a company out there that provides like a meat substitute or alternative, that company's way up. Sarah, what is it, 30 what percent? 35% increase, which is huge, right? So 35%, it fell down the first 5%, and then stock rallied more than 35% this year amid the meat shortage fears and concerns. So you might see things like, you know, spam meat alternatives, you know, different products that will still, you know, provide you with protein and, you know, meat substitute, that you might see the prices rallying, which is interesting to me. So I think it's always going to be this. So the industrial age kind of tanks, information age rises. We talked about this last week. The price of oil drops. The oil futures drop below $0 per gallon, which is insane. But other, you know, so this whole thing dropped, this entire sector, Boeing, the airlines, and everything else related to it is dropping. However, companies like Amazon are through the roof. Now, you would ask these questions. Well, doesn't Amazon rely on fuel to deliver their product? Doesn't Amazon rely on? I think what Amazon's done well, though, is invest in technologies. They've invested in a leaner and a better way of doing things. So it goes to show, as soon as you figured it out, you have to keep improving. That's my opinion, Matt. We talked about this weekend. You do more and you do it better. And then when you hit a brick wall, you do more, and then you can't do more. You have to do what you're doing better. And then you do more of it until you hit a brick wall, and then you have to do it better. So there's this constant improvement mindset. Is this how you see it? Like, you've been in the corporate world. Where does this play into, let's say, a standard corporation? Are they always pushing, or do you think a lot of them are extremely bureaucratic and they get to this point where they start tapering?
Yeah, I think for the businesses that last, they definitely are ever evolving, but I don't think most businesses last, to be honest. So I think most businesses are very bureaucratic, and you know, they often have 1 or 2 points of ascension and then just a slow phase out as their niche or product becomes less relevant, and they struggle to adapt to new market fundamentals. So I think a lot of businesses really struggle to fight a modern war. They're always fighting the last war. And so we touched upon this last week with like Netflix and Blockbuster and things of that nature. And I think that we'll continue to see it right now, right? This is a time where innovation's being forced on businesses to adapt at a much faster rate than would naturally occur in the economy. And because of that, I think we're going to see more businesses fail, but also more businesses be born or rise up like a phoenix. And so it definitely, like, it's the time that the people that are putting in the extra 20, as you're always talking about,
Yeah.
this is the time that that's going to pay off even more than normal.
Yeah, money's in the 20s, so you go 80% of the way, the money's made after that. Boom. It's just like that David Goggins thing. Like when you're running and you get to the end of where you're at, you're only really 40% of the way. You still have 60% left ability. You just stopping because it's hard or because difficult or whatever. So I think right now it's like you don't have a choice but to level up as a business owner. It's that simple to me, right? Like you've got to, if you don't understand the business well enough or this seems complicated, you need to level up. You need a mentor. You need to learn. You need to go back to school. You need to understand the economics of your business. You need to look at new revenue pieces in your companies. That's the only way I think the companies will truly grow. Because right now, you can't keep doing business the old-fashioned way. I drive by the grocery store here, the little small Italian grocery store, when I come to this office. And, I drive by and I see people standing outside and they're allowing, whatever customers in at a time. And I'm like, well, the economics of that can't work. It just can't. Like, it's too slow. People will get bored. They won't want to stand there. They'll find a better way. People will eventually keep moving towards the virtual stuff. So as much as you really wanted that homemade Italian pasta, whatever it is, you might start going to an alternative pasta because it's just no longer worth the headache to stand in that line on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. when the doors are, closed and basically letting 3 people in at a time. So those economics don't work, right? They just don't work because there's no scalability factor. You see, before they let people in the store, you buy the pasta, they keep increasing the price. They have new pastas, new varieties, new whatever. But now it's like, well, just getting people in the store is the problem. So we've removed such a critical component, foot traffic. If foot traffic is way down, it doesn't matter how good your product is. The problem is that the lack of foot traffic is what's going to kill your business because you can't get enough product out the door. So now you have to move to some kind of portable online delivery mechanism. So a local coffee shop that I like, and I represent them and I support these guys, they've done a good job. They've had 3 different locations here in town, and they got good coffee and great service and great people who own the business. Well, now they said, we'll do virtual coffee delivery. Or, like the coffee delivery business. So they've taken their best coffee, they packaged it together, put some t-shirts and some cookies and a whole bunch of other stuff, and they put it in a box and they deliver it to your house. Boom. So for me as a local, consumer, I'm like, hey, that sounds great. I'd like to get my coffee delivered. It's kind of like the milk back in the day. Mm-hmm. But they took that approach when other coffee shops were like, we have to shut down. They were like, well, we're not shutting down. We're actually going to try to sell more product by just investing in our delivery mechanism. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, it's a hard pivot to go from your retail locations now to a completely delivery method. But what other choices do they have if one of their locations are in the mall and the mall shut down?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big struggles a lot of entrepreneurs had at the start of this is, do I pivot and change now, or do I try and take a siesta or a break and then hopefully things return to normal and I can return to my normal business model? And a lot of businesses really did depend upon, a lot of businesses that operated in the real world depended on that foot traffic that you're talking about a shopping experience, right? Like malls, literally, the whole value in a mall retail space was that you had a bunch of people hanging out. Malls were returning to really trying to create experiences to drive consumers to spend there longer. That's why we saw kind of a renaissance in arcades and bars and movie theaters and mini putts and shopping malls across North America, was because at one point in time back in the 70s and 80s, it made a lot of sense because that drew people there and they hung around. Then malls started to really move away from that business model, and they realized that once they stopped becoming the community center, that really hollowed out the profits for all the different stores there. And so we've really seen a return to that. And now that literal strategy that they were implementing to drive up foot traffic and keep bodies there longer is really going to be challenged. And things like, opening up the mall so that people could just do their indoors walking because they understood the value in just having people there and constantly walking by your signage and walking by your merchandise. Yeah. And again, a lot of those different business practices are going to be challenged. I would hope that most business owners realize at this point in time that the idea of taking the ostrich approach and just sticking your head in the sand is no longer valid, because this is going to last a lot longer than probably the average person would have bet, 8 weeks ago. Yeah. And because we're in this new paradigm, in this new reality, this is definitely the time. If you haven't gone back to the drawing board in regards to your business and your business model, you absolutely have to do it now if you want to survive.
Yeah, and the truth is the virus isn't the problem. It really isn't, folks. I know we all think it is, but the virus is all it's done is it's created a change in consumer buying behavior. And if this consuming buying behavior, like you mentioned at the front end of this conversation, becomes a habit and it becomes the new social norm, well, it's going to change the face of how business is done. And if that's the case, or it's sped up the way that business was being done, because I would rather argue that it was already moving this way anyways. Mm-hmm. Truth, right? This just accelerated that movement. So now you thought you had a couple years to refine your business, grow your business, whatever. You no longer have that option because the consumer confidence is the biggest driver. If consumers don't feel safe coming into your environment, guess what? You don't have a business. So you now have to go back to them. I want to see the milk delivery service come back. I want to see a lot of these delivery services coming back. Which the truth is, this was happening anyways. So farms need to go from farm to table, right? Instead of going through the middleman. So we might start seeing a lot less middlemen, a lot more direct produce to table kind of thing. So I think farms have a unique opportunity. You just can't afford to go through a broker, all right? So you've now got to be able to build an infrastructure, with online or technology where you can actually deliver your product directly to your end consumer. And there might be brokers that pop up that do this exact service. Delivery services that'll pick up the product and deliver it for you, things like that. So there's always innovative ways, and that's why we've got, Uber Eats, and we've got all these Skip the Dishes and all this stuff, which Skip the Dishes is a Canadian company, right? These guys are from up north. Yeah, or out west, they call themselves, so not never up north. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I think it's bringing us back to more of a direct to wholesaler kind of approach, because the convenience of going into the store, if that convenience is dissipating, right? Yeah. And the fear, enters the conversation, the convenience is no longer worth the risk. I think that's the problem. What do you think on that as we keep moving on to that? We'll pull up the charts here, Hans. Anything you want to add to that, Matt?
Just like building upon it again, we can look towards real estate, because I know a lot of our audience is focused on real estate, and look at all this successful, like I've personally noticed this, and I'm sure a lot of other people anecdotally have stories, but all the successful realtors from the last generation, right? Like the 50 plus crowd, I know that they judged and mocked a lot of the younger realtors that were embracing social media. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now we've got 70-year-old realtors being like, can you just show me how that Instagram worked again? Mm-hmm. And like, it's fascinating to me. They're starting to understand that, like, oh shit, like, not only is it my grandkids that are on this platform, but it's also my kids and my peers now that are actually on this platform and embracing the new technology.
That's true.
So I think we're really starting to see people understand social media can be that online business card for you.
Yeah, and business is getting younger. That's the truth, right? So, we've got these companies coming into Canada, which at first got a lot of resistance. We're talking some of the more modern online brokerages, right? That are coming in, like Keller Williams. They came in as a big movement, right? They started in the U.S. They came to Canada and they started opening all of these brokerages, and they've got, trainings and all this stuff here for realtors, and people were resentful. They're like, hey, we don't want this stuff. This is not how business is done. But truthfully, I mean, they know that there's a big opening there. There's a big opening to reach the millennial consumer, the younger consumer, because they want to buy differently. They don't want to go to 1,500 open houses and waste a Saturday and a Sunday. Right? They want to consume the content on their smartphone and be able to look at different house pictures, be able to book the appointments, be able to do a lot of this stuff virtually so that, they can spend their time and energy on the product once it's done. I don't think the idea of like, I want to go house shopping is kind of, is leaving, just like the idea of I want to go grocery shopping. People don't want to spend as much time physically doing the due diligence, I think, but they would rather do it at home on their smartphone where they can do other things, right? They can multitask, which is a big word with millennials, right? They want to watch TV and browse their iPhone and do their homework, and do the whatever at the same time. And if you can't deliver that kind of experience, they're probably not taking 3 hours out of their day to go look at houses unless they're like super serious and already like pre-approved and ready to pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. Less and less I see that happening. What do you think? Do you think that's the way we're going into virtual tours and virtual everything with houses?
Completely agree. Like, we'd already started to see the most innovative realtors, right? And a lot of markets here embrace Matterport, right? And 3D tours and things of that nature. I think before the end of this, we're just going to see that become standard business operating procedures for the real estate space. And it makes a lot of sense. It's going to save a lot of time, energy, and money for everyone involved in real estate. It's going to make everyone more efficient and effective.
Mm-hmm.
But until we had this catalyst kind of forcing our hands, I think we saw how comfortable a lot of us were doing business.
Yep.
And it's really easy to get comfortable or soft when things are going well for you. And it's only when hard times come along or innovations forced upon you that you'll really pull yourself up.
Let's talk about the value of time real quick. I think that the value of time is getting more and more important. Years and years ago, time wasn't as significant, right? Like you were willing to go to your job and save all this money and have the same kind of life and have a nice house and a nice car. But you were willing to just, go to your job and be okay. Whereas now we have like no patience, instant gratitude. We value time a lot. If we could knock out in 2 years instead of in 10 years, we'd rather just find a better way and a faster way. And I think a lot of that driver is technology. So we don't have time. And we've conditioned ourselves as a society that there's no time. You hear this in everyday conversation. I've got no time for this. I got no time for this. But your grandfather probably did have time for this. I got no time to look at houses every weekend. But your grandfather would have done that because your grandfather would have bought maybe 1 or 2 houses in his lifetime. You're probably going to buy 4 or 5. Right? So I think the time is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter because we're trying to accomplish more and more things in our life. Right? Especially right now, like, people go to school. I want to get this degree and this degree, and I want to work in this field, and I want to enjoy what I do, and I want to have kids, and I want to have all these things. Where I think traditionally, if we're going back, 20 to 30 years, people kind of picked one thing. I'm a stay-at-home, mom or dad, whatever, or I'm in this field of work, and I'm going to be in this field of work. I think a lot less people went through a 4-year bachelor degree, and then they're like, I don't like this field. Whereas now it seems to be more commonplace, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's almost like trial and error now. You try it for a little while, and if you don't like it, pop on to the next thing.
Yeah, and there's a multitude of factors behind why that is, but I think the biggest one is the democratization of information and communication, right? It's just it's so easy now to communicate and interact and learn from each other that, before, if you, let's just say, you grew up in your small little town or whatever, and maybe you thought about becoming a real estate investor.
Okay.
Well, until you bumped into someone in real life that was a real estate investor that you could learn from or get mentorship from, you just kind of kept stumbling along with this idea, but you couldn't really necessarily take control of the situation. Where now, because information's so free, it's really within all of our powers to take ownership of our personal situation. If you decide you want to become a real estate investor, you can find those resources yourself. Where if you were in that small, isolated community, you may never come across that person. You may never get the opportunity to learn that way.
Yeah, that's very accurate. So let's talk about that. I think right now more than ever before, you can make a decision at any point. At any given day, you can decide I'm going to become a real estate investor. Because there's so many tools, resources, opportunities, and mentorships. There's mentorships in every area of your life. If you want to win a fitness competition, you don't have to be, overly gifted in fitness area. You just find a great coach and you put in, 12 months worth of work, and you could be going to the fitness competition literally next season. Whereas, years ago, you're making that your whole lifestyle, if you want to become a fitness competitor. So I think now you can do a lot more things, and it's never been easier to just pick. So let's talk about real estate, because that's what we're into. Hey, you can get a mentor right now and get into real estate. And instead of buying a house a year, you can buy a house a month. True story. And it's all about, you just don't know what you don't know today. But if you got the right mentorship and you just took the right appropriate piece of action, guess what? You'd get the same result that other people are getting. There's also a lot more people getting the result now than there was years ago. Maybe you had one real estate investor who was super successful in your town 30 years ago. Today, there's 30, 40, 50 successful investors in your town who are all kind of modeling and doing the same group of activities. So there's a lot more confidence because more people are doing it in different circumstances and situations in life. So, I think that there's really no excuse today. You can literally do whatever you want. Literally, right? But you got to make a decision that you want it, and you got to make a decision that you're going to pursue it. What do you think on that?
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
Yeah, we're in an amazing time. It can be really easy to get distracted by the noise of COVID-19, but information and communication has never been cheaper or easier to access than it is today.
Right.
And that to me is the secret right there. It's just being able to access this information and take ownership of your personal situation and lean into it. So I completely agree with everything you said there. There's never been a better time to, take control of your life and whatever it is you want from it, if you just take ownership of that situation, you accept that you're responsible for the outcome, then it's just a matter of you finding the right resources, right? The right information, the right mentorship. I think for a lot of us, we're able to accomplish things so much faster today than we could have 50 or 100 years ago because we can cheat, right? Like we can literally just buy that mentorship. We can buy that experience from someone else. Where again, like 100 years ago, there wasn't someone to even teach you real estate investing if you wanted to be taught, unless you just stumbled into that natural mentorship scenario.
Yeah.
Where now you can absolutely find people in your local markets. You can find people in your local country that are blazing that trail, and you can achieve your 4-minute mile so much faster because you've got these Roger Bannisters already setting the pace for yourself.
Correct. I think it's like a glass of water, right? So years ago, this glass of water, if you visualize a glass of water that's got about 30% of it full. And for every person that wants to get involved, let's say it's a real estate investing glass of water, and you put your little drop in. It's gonna stay kind of where it is, and it's gonna slowly start increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing. All these people are piling in and piling in and piling in, but there's really no exact formula or no exact success metric or thing that you can do. What's happened is so many people have done this where now there's an over pouring, and this glass of water is literally pouring over. So for every drop that goes in it, it's just coming right back out. So if you want to be a successful investor, all you need to do is surround yourself with all the other people that are becoming successful investors, because now there's an actual formula for this. There's an actual process for it, and there's so many other people that are doing it successfully. Now, you may not know who they are. So what I tell people, say, well, how do I become a successful investor? The first answer is get around other successful investors. Get around practitioners. Get around real people doing real life deals. So if you don't know where that is, you can head over to cashflowtribe.ca. Hans will throw it on the screen for you, and you can check it out. There's a free group, and there's mentorship and everything else there. My point is, get around the people that are already pouring over, because that glass is pouring over with real estate investors. There's never been more millionaires than today. And next year, there's never going to be more millionaires than in that date when we look at it. You see, there's going to be more and more millionaires in this life because of the way that this works. So all of the secrets have been exposed. All of the things, that are holding us back, they've already been done. A lot of people think they have a unique situation for why they can't be successful in real estate or any other place in business. But the truth is, you're not unique in that. You're not unique in your fear of being judged. You're not unique in your fear of failure. You're not unique in your lack of information. There's a lot of people that have been in that same place, that have simply just kept pouring into themselves, and now they're growing. So there's really no reason why somebody couldn't change their future and faster than maybe 20 years ago.
100%. And the thing is, the only thing holding you back is your limiting beliefs, right? It's your mindset. It's just you getting in your own way.
Yeah.
And you just need to understand that if there's anyone out there that's accomplished what you want to accomplish, you can do it too. And that's what's so amazing about social media, I think. And what I've tried to really do on my YouTube channel is just showcase the giant spectrum of different people out there crushing it in real estate investing. I think that's what I love about our community, Cashflow Tribe, as well, right? There's literally any avatar you want. Single 19-year-old dude, we've got someone there crushing it in real estate. You want that 55-year-old with 4 kids, we've got that as well, and everything and anything in between it. And again, I think for a long time, a big struggle for people was understanding that they could maybe be like, oh, Matt or Ben they must have been extra lucky. But I hope that my YouTube channel and what we're doing with Cashflow Tribe really documents that there's just anyone that's taking ownership of their situation is out there and crushing it with real estate. But it comes down to you taking ownership of the situation.
I like what you said about the word avatar, because what that means is that it's not only just been figured out by some people, it's been figured out by people in every different circumstance in life. Yeah. So there's no limitation because of where you are. You're right. There's 19-year-olds doing real estate, and if you need access to them, shoot me a message, and I'll direct you to a bunch of people making money at 19. There's people making money at 15 or 50 who quit their jobs, got out of the rat race, had kids already, and now they're doing real estate full time. So I don't think there's any more, well, I'm at this stage of my life, so I can't do it. The truth is somebody else at your stage of life is doing it or has done it. So that it is possible. The question is, will you stick with it long enough? That's really what it comes down to. Roger Bannister is a high school teacher, and you would think that the person who broke the 4-minute mile back in 1950, I think it was 1954 or 51, you would think he was a professional athlete. right? Roger Bannister was a high school teacher, and he ran this thing every day. It had never been broken prior to him. And he ran this thing, and he visualized it over and over and over again. And they literally thought it was impossible up until this point to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Roger runs it, breaks it at 3 minutes 59, in a few milliseconds. And as soon as he broke it, it became possible. But somebody had to pave that way, and they call the Roger Bannister effect. Now, the 4 minute mile, this has been broken by tons of people ever since then. And in fact, even a good high school student athlete can break this 4 minute mile. So it only takes one kind of person to overpour that and show you that it's possible. And then it's not a matter of is it possible. The only question is, are you going to do it? Mm-hmm. And yes, it's going to be work. There's no such thing as a get rich quick scheme, right? Not that works long term.
Yes, exactly.
But there is a process by which you can follow diligently with enough time and enough action where you can get a result, a meaningful result to drive you to an overarching goal, which is financial independence. Because I know you were financially free, right? To both of us, 30 and 31 years old, right? So for us, it was like, I didn't necessarily have people who broke it before me that I knew personally, but I read enough books where a lot of my mentors came from books. And a lot of my mentors came from courses that I had bought, or, I would watch different things or get inspired. But now, because I've been in the business, I actually know people that are breaking the things that I want to break, the records I want to break, that I know them personally. Yeah. Right? So it's like, well, I actually know a guy who's worth $50, $60 million. I know a guy who's worth $100 million. I know these people personally because I've invested enough in myself where they actually want to have a conversation with me. So if you're struggling to get started with whatever it is in your life, folks, especially right now during COVID-19, right? If you're struggling to get started, the first thing you can do is just get in an environment where people are winning. Because if we don't do something different than what we've been doing up until now, we can't really expect to get a different result now, can we? What would you say to that? I think you say your network is your net worth.
Yeah. So absolutely agree with that entire sentiment, 100%.
Hans, pull up the charts here real quick as we kind of move through the segment here today. Folks, if you have a question for Matt, please go ahead. Drop it in the comments here. We can talk about it. So the VIX here, let's just pull it up real quick. We know we talk about the VIX, which is the volatility indicator. And when COVID first happened, it drove all the way up. So the higher this is, consider the more fear is in the marketplace. So historically, it sits between 10 and 20. It rolls all the way up to 80. The VIX has been coming down sharply, right? So it's a pretty big decline from 80 back to 34. So as much as you think there's a lot of sentiment and fear in the stock market, right? This is the kind of the financial market. Folks, it was nowhere near as scary as it was when it first happened. Now, you may not feel that way because you might still seeing the news, but the truth is the overall market is already cooling off significantly from where it was initially, right? There's a lot more confidence in the marketplace. Even if we look at the S&P today, this is the major index. Again, a drop from 3,400 to 2,200, big drop. But guess what? It's been rallying back up from 2,200 to 28. So in terms of the market movement, in terms of the overall sentiment in the market, guess what? It's rebounding. So does it mean it's going to go all the way back up to 3,400? No, probably not. Maybe. It's hard to say. I don't want to live in a prediction mindset. I want to live in a preparation mindset. But my point is the markets itself is telling you that it's maybe not as scary as it seems out there, okay? And I think, part of it is people are just adapting. People are willing to change the way they do things, and they're just adjusting. People have this amazing ability to adapt, but sometimes it needs to be forced. So like if you were walking around with one of those surgical masks on 6 months ago, I'd be like, wow, this guy's crazy. Maybe, I don't know. But now it's commonplace. You don't even think about it twice. Right? I see people at the banks with a surgical mask. I drive to Timmy's, and Timmy's is normal up until today when Timmy's now has this like big old plastic thing in front of the drive-through window so you can't stick your hand or face in there. Right? And Timmy's last week, they were kind of normal, but now everybody's wearing a mask and gloves. So it's like some people are even late to catch on. Can you imagine Tim Hortons didn't have gloves and masks until a week ago? I mean, the one I go to. So think about it. I mean, not everybody's living in this kind of pandemic thing, right? Like some people are just moving on with life. And, they're taking precautions, but I think the fear spread fast. And then like the rest of our like buying habits are catching up to the fear. And maybe it's like, oh, you don't have to go that hardcore on the buying habits because the fear is kind of being tapered in a way. So anyways, the markets are up again because what's happening is Alaska, Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas are already planning the reopening. So we got 4 states here looking to reopen, right? So that's actually helping, the overall market drive some more positive sentiment. Companies like Starbucks are up. Canadian marijuana growers are up again. So I keep talking about Canadian marijuana because it's kind of the biggest industry, or most hype industry at the moment, it seems like. So again, meat production down, marijuana's up. So less meat, more pot. I don't know. I don't know.
That's how I live my life.
I'm giving you bombs for that one. Something happened to my bombs. Okay, whatever. There you go. There it is. More bombs and trombone at the same time. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, folks, if you're at home, I think part of the thing here today that I want to keep front of mind with you guys is, you have the ability, like Matt said, to control, right? And I think sometimes we forget that we've got that distinct ability, and we take it on as like a victim mentality. And we're like, well, this is happening to me. COVID is happening to me. And the truth is, if you think that way, then you're probably right. And it's going to be a self-validating thing. So it's going to be a self-fulfilling kind of endeavor. So I'm afraid of COVID because it's happening to me. You're right, it is happening to you because you're letting it happen to you. Where I think Matt's mindset, as in my mindset, is that, okay, it's happening somewhere, somehow. I can't control it, so I won't. I won't even try. It's not a controllable thing. But I can control me, my behavior, my mindset, and my activity. That's it. That's what I can control. So I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to take care of my health. I'm going to go for a walk every day. Keep my mask on or whatever, right? I'm gonna get my groceries. I may not go to the grocery store as much. I'll get the delivery service, which is what I've been doing. I haven't walked into a grocery store since this happened. I don't know if you have, but I haven't. But I wasn't going into grocery stores before. I would just pull up to the thing, and they would just drop the food in the car. That's what my grocery store does. So I'm just doing more of that. So my life really hasn't changed that much. But I would just encourage you folks, if you're at home right now, be encouraged that you can still do things. You're not limited. You're not limited right now with what you can do. The internet has made a vast array of opportunity available to you in business and personal development. In fact, right now is a great time for you to focus on your development. Read great books. Join a mentorship company. Get access to education in whatever capacity you're trying to learn. Learn how to cook. Learn how to dance. Learn how to do real estate. I would take this as a time to really expand on your personal skill set and your mindset, not contract. And, because here's the problem. If you don't fill your time with activity, you're going to get bored, restless, and that's just going to lead to a whole bunch of other things. So I think one of the biggest things is, how are we managing our time? And if you add activity to your day and it keeps you engaged, then you won't have as much time to watch the news and fear the outcomes because you're too focused on salsa dancing or whatever it is. So are you doing anything, Matt? People want to know, are you doing anything now to new skills or new informations, or are you taking on new things here in the midst of COVID?
So I think constantly investing in oneself is important. So certainly have been doing a bunch of that like before and during COVID. So, Audible is one of my favorite ways to learn. So constantly have a book on the go with Audible. New things that we have started implementing is we do a 7 a.m. Team workout. So we've got 5 different managers between like my different departments, I guess, in the one business. And each manager just takes on one day of the week and they lead an exercise. So today it was yoga with Peter, the Hungarian experiment.
Okay.
And tomorrow we'll be doing some like body weight CrossFit stuff with Adam Martin. And so I've really been enjoying that because what we've really tried doing is, trying to combine multiple goals into one task. So like keep the team all physical. We see value in that. Kind of have a touchstone or a bookend to the start of our day. So we all kind of get up on similar, sleep pattern and even things of that nature, because it can be really easy right now to fall into really bad habits. And definitely my media and wholesale guys are very capable of being the sort of dudes that stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning and then don't wake up till noon. And then all of a sudden you get yourself on that bad cycle.
Right.
So yeah, we're constantly looking at just like implementing new little innovative business practices like that.
I like it. So if you don't want to develop bad habits, then focus on the good ones that you have. Double down on positive habits. Double down on the things that are working. Don't worry about the bad habits. Focus on the positive ones that you got and put yourself in constraints. So, work out every day. Okay. And if you haven't worked out up until now, now's a great time to start. Well, Ben, there's no gyms that are open. Well, you can go for a walk, You can go do some push-ups or pull-ups or whatever you want to do, or some yoga in the morning. Especially now, it's beautiful outside, okay? So, go for a walk or do something. But I think now is a great time to cultivate new habits, and that comes out of a position of discipline. So I love it. I love it. This is a great conversation, man. And I'm glad that, you've been with me here today. Folks, give me some thumbs up if you guys are enjoying these virtual sessions with Matt McKeever, learning every day. I always love the one-on-one times because it's just raw, real, and to the point, right? There's no specific lecture, but it's just real life. And I think sometimes we just need a jolt of real life and a real life conversation. And I think this is a really good example of that. So I appreciate you, man. As we kind of roll up here today, folks, do me a quick favor. If you enjoyed today's stream, go ahead and give it a quick share. Share, and then tag a buddy, tag a friend, tag a local Canadian who you think could have benefited from today's conversation. That'd be huge. We would appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And we'd love to help pour and invest into other people. So, if you've got somebody who's maybe on the fringes and they need some positivity, they need some, mindset, or they need some real estate tactics or strategies, Hans is going to put on the screen cashflowtribe.ca. You can just roll over there and check it out. We do have a free trial. You guys can check it out. It's 2 weeks, entirely free. So for the next 2 weeks, you can be learning about everything under the sun under Canadian real estate investing, wholesaling, landlording, passive investments, active strategies. You can join the community. Come join. We have things like Women of Tribe, and we've got great groups that we do. We have personal development weekends, and we have all kinds of stuff. There's so much available training and courses and mentorship, and you might just need to make some friends. So we've got over 750 friends that are waiting for you in Cashflow Tribe Alpha. They love to get to know you all over Canada. So for those of you that have joined us, welcome, and thank you for being part of our community. We got, D'Lo and Chris and Tara and Mike and Sean and Jenilyn and Emily, and we got a whole bunch of folks in the comments that have already, joined Cashflow Tribe, and they love to connect with you guys. I believe in creating an amazing community of people that are focused on positivity and abundance mindset, and if you're struggling with those two things, then come and join the community. Come and join us, man. People say, hey, is that a cult? Well, we're pretty positive. We have a dance and a song, and we get together once a week or a few times. So I don't know. You call it what it is. I think it's just a good time with some folks that are having a good time. So yeah, come connect with us. And as we wrap up today's episode, folks, we have the Matt McKeever song, which I'm going to perform for you because that's just what we do on the Data Drama Show. Some people love the rap music. Other people are like, man, that's cheesy. But you know what? That's me. So I want you to do you. I will do me, Matt. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you so much. And in a time when everybody's out there focused on the problems, my man is rocking profits. Problems or profits. So cool. Matt, any last words before we wrap up here today, my friend?
Just always a pleasure. And yeah, let's continue the theme of today's talk, right? Take ownership of your situation. And just a reminder for everyone watching this, if you haven't checked out Cashflow Tribe, after every data or drama show at 7:30, I go live with the Cashflow Tribe community on a Zoom call. So literally it's like a 1-on-50 conversation where I get to see your faces. You guys can unmute yourself and jump in and chat. So again, I think Monday nights are a great time to try and sample Cashflow Tribes.
Yeah, they're powerful. So if you want some free training and hang out with Matt one-on-one, folks, go ahead and just check out Cashflow Tribe. I know I said it a couple of times, but it's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything for 14 days. Check it out. And if you want to stay a part of our community, it's literally less than a cup of coffee a day to be a part of Cashflow Tribe. So, folks, have a great night. God bless you. Stay humble. And we're going to sing Matt's song because this is Matt McKeever's song. So if you guys like it and you know it, sing it out with me. Here we go. Hans, hit the track for my man, Mr. McKeever in the house. Come on now. Appreciate you, Sean and Tara and Sin and D'Lo and everybody else in the comments, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. It's your boy, Humble CEO, on the show. And we're working at your job every day of the week. Promoted 2 times, but now your future looks bleak. You're saving every dollar, making plans for retiring, but now you're losing hope and no one is hiring. McKeever and Ben Humble is coming into the rescue. Diversify your income and stop spending like the rest do. Time to build some skills, get some solid mentorship. We fighting in these waters like U.S. naval battleships. McKeever making money, you making money? Build a business now or y'all be looking funny. McKeever making money, he is. Are you making money? Maybe build a business now or y'all be looking funny. The mind is a pandemic, got the virus, it's a scarcity, so switch it to abundance. It's your choice, so just believe with me. Don't have to be scared, poverty is not your destiny. Just have a little faith and stay with me. It's Humble B. teaching from experience, educating more than sesame. Yeah, I'm from the street, so I think independently. I'm not that big bird, I'm not yellow, you can count on me. Dropping big words, syllables, 1, 2, 3, McKeever making money. Yep, you making money? Build a business now, or y'all be looking funny. McKeever making money. Are you making money? Build a business now, or y'all be looking funny. Time to make some money, government just can't fix it though. It's time to take control and money pedal to the floor. It's time to make some money, government won't just fix it though. It's time to take control and money pedal to the floor. McKeever making money. Are you making money? So build a business now, folks, or y'all be looking funny. McKeever making money. With Cashflow Tribe, he's making money. Get on board, or y'all be looking funny. Bye.